4,000 meters below the surface, where sunlight has never touched and pressure can crush steel like paper, the Titanic rests in silence. Her bow is buried deep in the mud, her stern shattered like a broken spine. Rusticles hang from her railings like frozen tears, slowly consuming what remains of the grandest ship ever built. And yet, something is still closed. On the port side of the ship, far below the famous grand staircase, behind collapsed bulkheads and tangled pipes, there is a steel door. It has no passenger number, no mention in tourist diagrams, no official name. On original blueprints, it is labeled with a single word, scribbled hastily in pencil. Auxiliary passage, crew only. For over a century, no human has opened it. Until now. Chapter 1. A line missing from the blueprint. In 2018, maritime historian Drive, Eleanor Shaw was digitizing original Titanic construction plans in Belfast. The project was routine: scan, archive, restore. Then she noticed something wrong. On deck F, beneath the boiler rooms, a corridor simply vanished. It wasn't collapsed. It wasn't erased. It was never fully drawn. There were doors marked on either side, ventilation shafts feeding into it, even emergency lighting conduits, but no destination. No explanation. Engineers don't design nothing. Shaw cross-referenced crew logs, maintenance schedules, and shipyard memos. Buried inside a stack of unsigned notes was a sentence that made her stop breathing. Auxiliary passage sealed after Southampton trial. Access restricted by captain's authority. Why would a brand new ship seal a passage before its maiden voyage? And more importantly, why had no one ever spoken about it? Chapter 2. The crew who never talked. Survivor testimonies from Titanic are extensive: first-class luxury, third-class chaos, heroic musicians, locked gates. But crew testimonies, those are different. Firemen, trimmers, electricians, many survived. Yet when interviewed, several gave strangely identical answers to certain questions. I don't recall that corridor. Must be misremembering. We were told not to go there. One fireman, William Hargreaves, broke pattern in a 1913 private letter to his brother. There was a door below the boilers. We were warned, never open it. Not during drills, not even if flooding reached our knees. Hargreaves died 6 months later in an industrial accident. The letter was never published. Chapter 3. Night of the Ice. April 14, 1912. At 11:40 p.m., the Titanic strikes the iceberg. Below deck, chaos erupts instantly. Boiler room number 6 begins to flood. Firemen scramble, engineers shout orders, steam hisses violently from ruptured pipes. Water pours in faster than men can pump it out. Yet according to engine room time logs, something strange happens at 11:47 p.m. A pressure drop, not in the boilers, but in a sealed section of the ship. A handwritten margin note reads, "Ox passage holding. Door remains closed." Why mention it at all? As water climbed higher, some crew attempted to retreat through familiar escape routes, only to find them blocked. And one man ran toward the forgotten door. Chapter 4. The man who reached it. His name was Thomas Riley, assistant electrician, age 27. Riley's job was to keep power flowing, lights, wireless equipment, emergency signals. When the collision happened, he was dispatched to assess damage below deck F. He never returned, but his body was later recovered. What shocked investigators wasn't where he was found. It was what he was holding. Riley's hands were wrapped around a brass handle, smooth, curved, unmistakably part of a door mechanism. Except there was no door in that location on official maps. The handle had been torn clean off, as if he had tried to open something that resisted him with everything it had. Chapter 5. Orders from the bridge. Captain Edward Smith was many things: experienced, respected, calm under pressure. But witnesses that night described something else. At 12:05 a.m., Smith reportedly gave a direct order to Chief Engineer Joseph Bell. Under no circumstances is the auxiliary passage to be breached. No explanation, no discussion. Bell obeyed, even as water rose, even as men drowned in darkness. Why protect a corridor when lives were at stake? Unless opening it would make things worse. Chapter 6. The passage's true purpose. Years later, declassified White Star Line documents revealed something unsettling. Titanic was not just a passenger liner. She was a floating experiment. Her new watertight compartment system had a flaw few engineers fully understood. Pressure differentials between sealed zones could cause catastrophic structural failure if equalized too quickly. The auxiliary passage connected multiple compartments horizontally. If opened during flooding, It would act like a knife, allowing water to rip through the ship faster than gravity ever could. The door was not meant for escape. It was a pressure lock. A final barrier. Opening it could doom everyone above. Chapter 7. The choice no one saw. At approximately 12:10 a.m., Riley reached the door. Water was already waist-high. Lights flickered. He knew, or was told, what that door meant. Behind it, a shortcut upward. A chance to survive, but also, the end of the ship. Riley tried anyway, not because he was selfish. Because he was human. The handle broke. The seal held. Riley drowned there, in total darkness, just inches from a door that could have saved him, and killed hundreds more. Chapter 8. Why it stayed secret. After the disaster, the White Star Line buried the passage in silence. Why? Because admitting its existence meant admitting a horrifying truth. Some crew were sacrificed by design. The ship could only survive long enough for lifeboats to launch if certain doors stayed shut, no matter who was trapped behind them. The passage was sealed on blueprints, removed from public schematics, never spoken of again, until modern technology reached it. Chapter 9. The first look inside. In 2023, a remotely operated vehicle, ROV Aquila, navigated through collapsed debris and reached the door. It was still there, bent, scarred, closed. Rust had fused it into the hull like a scar that refused to heal. Robotic arms applied pressure. For the first time in 111 years, the door moved. Inside was not a hallway. It was a narrow chamber, barely wide enough for one man, lined with pressure gauges frozen at extreme readings. And on the wall, scratched into the steel with something sharp. It's holding. God forgive us. Chapter 10. The silence after. The ROV withdrew. No attempt was made to open the inner seal. Some doors are not meant to be fully opened, not because of what's behind them, but because of what they represent. The Titanic did not just sink because of ice. She sank because survival, sometimes, demands unbearable choices. And somewhere in the dark, beneath the Atlantic, a forgotten passage remains. A reminder that heroism isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's a door that stays closed.